Okay, we're going to take our CSV file here, which is an Excel file, and we're going to open it up. You can look at the data and you can see that the data set is actually huge. It's at this point you really want to determine what questions you're trying to answer and what data you're trying to display in your visualization. So what we also need to do is we need to format this. And we're going to use row 5 here as our, for this presentation, we're going to use this as our headers. And this will become more apparent later what we're doing here. So what we need to do is make sure that there's a label for each of the columns in row 5. So this one already has the name total, and this is the total population in this census tract. And this one is also a total, but it's the total of Hispanic or Latino folks in a particular census tract, and this is one where the folks answered they were not Hispanic or Latino. This column is not Hispanic or Latino, but it is also not Hispanic or Latino of one race. You should take a few minutes and look at what all the column headings are so you know what all the data is. Since we're using row 5, we're going to get rid of row 6 here because there isn't anything here that we really need. And then from row 4 through row 1, we're going to go ahead and get rid of that data as well because we're not going to use it for anything in this presentation. In a different presentation, you might use it, but what we're going to illustrate for folks is the number of Hispanic folks in each particular census tract, and then the number of not Latino folks, and then a couple of columns on these other sets of data here. One thing we need to do is we need to make sure that there's a column here that will match our Google Fusion table data for the name of a census tract. And if we go back and we look at our shape file in Google Fusion tables, we can open that up and we can see that there are a lot of columns here. But this one here, name 10, has the clearest names of all the different census tracts in this county. So in order to get, in a few moments when we merge these two spreadsheets together, we need to have a column that is exactly formatted the same way on each spreadsheet. So if these are the names of the census tracts, we need to make sure we know what each row is representing in terms of census tract. And we find that here in column C. And I'm going to widen this column, and you can see the names of the census tracts here. But like I said, we need this stuff to match up exactly. So we're going to create an extra column here. And we're going to name it match column. And you can name it whatever you want, it's just we want to make sure that we're going to be able to find this column later. Okay. Now this county has 50 rows of census tracts here. If you're in a large metro, you're going to have a whole lot more. So whereas this takes only a few moments here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, this could take considerably longer depending on the size of your county or area that you are trying to plot. New York City, you're going to take a few hours to do this, maybe probably an hour or so. But if you also know how, if you're a real Excel Jedi, you might be able to automate this process somehow. Well, you just go through, and all we're doing in this case is copying the census tract number because that's all we had in our shape file. So when we ask the computer in a few moments to merge the two files, it's going to look at both. We're going to tell it which column to look at, and it'll say, oh, okay, we now know which set of data, which row goes in this spreadsheet goes with the one in the other, so that we're actually getting the shape data from the other file and the population data from this file to line up. So this will take another moment, and you should be following along. Now I want you to take a look here at 103.10. When I put that in there, Excel tries to actually does remove the 0 at the end. This is a problem, and this is how we solve it. The reason it's a problem is because when we merge it later, these things need to match up exactly. But Excel realizes that 103.1 and 103.10, if it were a number, are the same value. But we don't really need these to be represented as numbers. This is essentially text. So what we do is we highlight this column, we look at the format, cells, and we tell Excel that this entire column is text. And now when we enter 103.10, we can keep our 0, which is really important. So as you do this process in the future, don't forget that the column that you're using here needs to be a text, not a number column. Okay. We're almost done here. I really think that this part here is the trickiest step in putting together this map. But once you get the hang of it, this isn't going to be a problem at all. In fact, you may think about, if you're going to be working with the same data over and over again, you might actually think about copying this column that we just created here in column C, copy it to its own Excel file, and just pasting it in later when you have to do this work, so that you're not doing this over and over again. Okay, so I'm going to save this on my desktop. You can see the desktop right there, and we're going to save it in CSV format. Column separated values, and I'm going to go ahead and rename this as population data. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to put that away, and here's my population data CSV. I am going to look at my shapefile again, and I'm going to remember that name 10 is that column with the data formatted exactly the way we have formatted it in our CSV. Now we need to bring our CSV into Google Fusion Tables, and what we're going to do is we're going to start a new table, and we're going to import it from this computer and click Browse. And one of those reasons that I made sure I renamed my file is so I could find it easily on my desktop. There we go. Separator character is a comma. That's what a CSV is. It's comma separated. And it's going to pick the encoding, and then we're just going to click Next. This is going to take just a moment. Here we go. And it's asking us, because we've already prepared our data, it's asking us the column names when we import this into Fusion Tables are on which row. And Originally this was row 5, but when we deleted everything it became row 1. So here we are, we're going to say row 1. You can add some metadata to your table here and click finish. Now take a look at what we have here. Here's our match column, here's that column that we started with, and here's the one that we created. And it's okay that this is a different order than what's in the shapefile. It's what we expect, but it's also why we created this match column, so that the computer can sort out which way the two data sets should be merged. Here we go. We'll go back to our we will go back to our shapefile. And we remember name 10 here. And now we're going to merge. And here's the name 10 column. And here we have our population data and match column. So this way we've told the system to look at the data in those two columns and merge these two spreadsheets together, these two tables together based on what's in there. Here we go. And then we're going to call this the new merged data sets. And we're going to tell Fusion Tables to go ahead and merge them. And in a moment we're going to see the result. And here we go. Here's name 10. And here's all the data from that first spreadsheet. And here's the data from the one that we just brought in. This is our population data, as you can see. There we go. And you can see here's 101.02, here's 100.02 here, and you can just go down the line, and if you were concerned that they didn't match up, you can see right here that they have matched up. Okay? So here's where it starts becoming easier. We click Visualize Map. Pull out a little, and there you go. We now have all of our shape data, and now we've merged it with our population data, and in a moment, in the next video, we're going to show you how to take what's in these bubbles here and have it make sense for your readers. Okay?